Hey everyone, I'm Megan from Burgundy Lion. Join me for a free cocktail workshop during Tous Ensemble, a virtual Goal Initiatives event at goalinitiatives.org. Hey everyone, it's Megan from Burgundy Lion. Just here with you guys today. We're gonna do a little cocktail workshop. We're gonna make 3 cocktails together. So we're gonna be using today Humidor tequila, we're gonna use Glenmorangie, and we're gonna make a mocktail for everyone who just wants to refresh themselves without the side effects. So we're gonna start with the mocktail. So I already went to the Atwater Market, so I picked up some local strawberries from the Atwater Market. It's a great place to go during the summer. Like, I think all Montrealers have been to the Atwater Market at least once, if not more. I go every weekend with my girlfriend. We get our groceries, and so we went there, we got some strawberries. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do kind of a riff on a mint julep or like a sherry cobbler. So we're gonna use crushed ice. So I have a little machine here that I got at a thrift shop that you could probably find at some of those, the many thrift shops that are in Montreal. So it's to make crushed ice by hand. So you have a little thing at the top that opens up, and you just add a little bit of ice, and then there's some blades inside and they turn. So you just turn the crank like this. So it's a little bit more work than just buying regular ice, you know, but it's worth the work. There's a lot of people, I think, that would argue that the best part about a mint julep or a sherry cobbler is the crushed ice. So once your ice is all crushed and small and perfect, you're just gonna spoon it into your glass, and you can use whatever glass you want. You can use a wine glass, you can use a water glass. And if you don't have a little machine like this to crush the ice and you can't find one, you can always use regular ice. Or if you're feeling like energetic that day, you can always grab a bag and just crush the ice with a rolling pin or a hammer if you're real excited. But just try not to, you know, break any of your furniture. We're gonna grab a couple of strawberries. Just gonna cut them up real small. If you want, you can also muddle them. That's also good. Muddling sometimes it'll let the juices out and everything. I just find sometimes it's creates a lot of little pieces. So when you're drinking it with a straw, you get a lot of little pieces in your mouth. So we're just gonna cut the strawberries up like this. Gonna drop them into the ice. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna pour the other ingredients over the top. So a lot of people in bars are using what we call jiggers to measure things. So a lot of people don't have jiggers at home. If you do want a jigger, you can go to any like bar store and they sell the little ones that measure an ounce, 2 ounces, whatever. But if you have a shot glass at home, it's normally an ounce. So if you use a shot glass, you're fine. The most important part about measuring for a cocktail is that you're using equal parts. You're making sure that you're using the same tool to measure all of your ingredients. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do about 1.5 ounces of lemon, right over the strawberries like that. And then we're gonna use a little bit of homemade honey syrup that we have here. So if you want, you can use regular sugar and you can just do half-half, like half hot water and half sugar. You can do it in a mason jar and just shake the mason jar up, make sure all the sugar's melted, or you can use honey. You do the same thing, hot water, half honey, warm water, just mix it and it makes a really nice syrup. It just makes it a little bit easier to mix into the cocktail, because when you're mixing in just raw honey that's not a syrup, it tends to, when it gets cold, gets a little bit more thick, so it's harder to mix in. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use our half water, half honey syrup. We're gonna pour it over the strawberries again. We're gonna put the same amount as the lemon. There we go. And then after that, you can use a bar spoon, or you can just use a regular spoon that you have at home. You're gonna stir the cocktail up a little bit. Make sure the strawberries are nice and mixed in. If you make a little bit of a mess, it's okay, don't worry about it. You can just clean it up after. So it's almost like a little bit of a strawberry, little like lemonade kind of, but with the crushed ice, so it'll be nice and cold. So you don't wanna shake crushed ice or stir it too much because it'll definitely melt. And what I like to do with crushed ice cocktails is sometimes add a little bit of whole ice at the end, just because the crushed ice melts really, really quickly. So once you've stirred in all your ingredients, you can just add a little bit more whole ice just to top it off and give it another little stir like that. Make sure it's nice and cute. It's a nice little pink color, and you got those pieces of strawberry in there. And then strawberry and mint is obviously a super classic combination. So we grow a little bit of mint on our balcony. I feel like everyone in Montreal after quarantine now has a balcony garden, and mint is a super easy herb to grow. So if you just grab a couple of sprigs of mint like that, and you don't want to crush them, you don't want to hurt them too much or bruise them too much, just tap them on the back of your hand just to release the essential oils. And then when you're drinking your cocktail, you'll be able to smell that mint, and it's really nice. You can always drink it like that, or you can just pop a straw in, and it's really easy to drink. Most people with crushed ice will always use a straw. So that's for the mocktail. Very refreshing, great for a summer day. And also, if it's not strawberry season, you can always swing by the Atwater Market or any market that's close to you, and you can get a fruit that's in season. So right now it's July. Strawberries are great in July in Montreal. They're super delicious, they're super sweet, and they're super local. So it's always nice to use, but you can also use like later in the season, you can use peaches, you can use, blueberries, you can use any fruit, raspberries, you can pretty much put whatever you want in there. Watermelon, whatever your favorite fruit is, or whatever fruit you have on hand. Like there's a couple fruits might be a little weird, like banana, I wouldn't necessarily suggest you use that, but a lot of like little berries and things like that, they're always good. So that's for the mocktail. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna make a cocktail with the tequila, and we're gonna use our honey syrup again, actually. We're gonna use our honey syrup for all 3 cocktails today, because just to avoid using, processed sugars and things like that, and I actually really like honey. And there's a lot of producers in Montreal, like in the city, that actually make rooftop honeys like St. Henry honey and things like that. So you can always get local honey and make your honey syrup with honey that comes from really close to home. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna make a shaking cocktail, and it's gonna be a riff on Paloma. So Paloma, if you don't know what it is a classic tequila cocktail. It's a cocktail that usually uses, obviously, tequila. And we're gonna use humidor. Humidor is really good because it's 100% agave. So when you're buying or drinking a tequila, you're always looking for something that's 100% agave, because that means that the tequila is obviously distilled with only agave, and there's no fillers or substitutes or anything like that. It'll always give you less of a hangover than a tequila that is not 100% agave. So today what we're gonna do is we're gonna keep the lime juice, we're gonna keep the tequila, we're gonna add a little bit of Campari, which is an Amaro, it's an Italian liqueur. And we're gonna use our honey syrup, and we're not gonna put any soda. So we're gonna shake the cocktail. So a lot of people in bars, obviously everyone has shakers, and shakers can sometimes be frustrating because they get stuck. So at home, you can always use a mason jar. So pretty much everyone has a mason jar. It can be a small mason jar or a big one. If you don't have a mason jar, there's lots of no waste coffee shops that when you get your coffee, they'll give it to you in a mason jar for $1. So you can always bring it back and get your $1 back, or you can keep it and you can make a cocktail. So today we're gonna make our cocktail in our mason jar. So we're gonna put a little bit of ice in the mason jar. Some people prefer to put the alcohol before the ice. I like to sometimes pour over the ice, depending on what ice you have. If you have big ice cubes, we have a couple of big ice cubes, so we're gonna pour over, and you don't have to shake it as long if you're gonna pour over, because as soon as you're pouring the alcohol over the ice, obviously you're gonna get a little bit of dilution directly from that because it's gonna melt it a bit. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use our shot glass again, and we're gonna do 1/2 ounce of the honey syrup right in there. We're gonna put that in there. We're gonna do a full ounce of grapefruit juice. So you can make fresh squeezed grapefruit juice if you want, or you can buy grapefruit juice from the store. It'll be just as good. Obviously, fresh squeeze is always, it's fancier if you're trying to impress your guests. You can always squeeze it fresh. If you're making like 15 cocktails, it's not always, it's a little time consuming. And we're gonna use lime juice, so fresh squeezed lime juice that I already squeezed in advance. You can also do that when you're making cocktails at home, if you're having a party, whatever it is. If you wanna use fresh squeezed juice, you can always prep it in advance. It'll stay good for, a while. You can use it, you can pre-batch your cocktails even, like if you're at home, you can make a bunch of your cocktails in advance, you measure, And we're gonna put a shot glass full and 1/2 of the tequila. If there's a little tiny bit extra on the shot glass, it's okay, If it's a little stronger, depends on who you're making it for. So So then we're gonna take the Campari, and we're also gonna put half a shot glass in there. And so when you're making a shaken drink or a stirred drink, what you're looking for is obviously the dilution. So you need a little bit of water in a cocktail when it's shaken or stirred to balance it out. So a cocktail that's shaken, that's not shaken enough, won't taste very good. You'll just kind of taste the booze. It'll be a little too sour. And a cocktail that's shaken too much will taste very watery. So you're kind of looking for that sweet spot in the middle. So normally I would say you can shake about 10 seconds if you count slowly. Now that we've poured our alcohol over the ice, I'm gonna shake it for about 8. So make sure your mason jar is very tightly sealed, obviously, because you don't want it going everywhere and having to spot clean your kitchen for like 2 hours just to make one drink. And give it a good shake. There we go. And so normally with a shaker, we would use a strainer, but we have like almost like a little bit of a built-in strainer in the mason jar. So we're gonna grab our glass. I'm using a coupette, but you can use whatever you want. So we're gonna take the little top of the mason jar like that. And we're just gonna use it to strain the cocktail into the cocktail glass like that. You get most of those ice chips out. There you go. There we are. Now, you can choose to garnish the cocktail or not. I normally don't garnish cocktails too much because I find a lot of the fruit just gets thrown away, so it's kind of a waste. So we always juice the limes, and then we either use that to like make a lime simple syrup, or we always compost. But if you do want to garnish, you can garnish with a lime wheel, you can garnish with a zest, you can garnish with pretty much whatever tickles your fancy, and it'll be just as good. So if you do a zest, obviously, if you just express the oils on the top, it gives it a little bit more freshness. So you can use lime, lemon, anything like that. It's always really good. All right, guys, so we're gonna keep going. We're gonna make our third cocktail of the day. We're gonna be using the Glenmorangie for the last one. So Glenmorangie is one of the many whiskeys that we have at Burgundy, one that I've served actually many times. It's a classic. Glenmorangie makes really good whiskey. So the original one is usually about 10 years old. It's very nice. It's a little bit more, I'd say almost like citrus notes, like zest, which is why today I'm gonna make an old fashioned. Old fashions have made a huge comeback in bars and restaurants, and a lot of people are ordering them. And everyone is used to, obviously, the one with the orange zest and the Angostura bitters, which is a classic bitter from Trinidad, one of the oldest bitters actually. And obviously a little bit of brown sugar, cane sugar. So we're gonna make a little bit of a summer twist on an old fashioned today. And since we're talking about whiskey and we're using whiskey for a cocktail, I just wanna remind everyone that you should drink whiskey however you want. There is no wrong way to drink whiskey. You wanna drink it on ice, drink it on ice. You wanna drink it neat, drink it neat. You wanna drink it mixed, drink it mixed. Because we serve a lot of whiskey, obviously, at Burgundy, and that's a conversation that I have a lot. And the important part is that you're enjoying it. So today we're gonna enjoy it in an old fashioned. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna build it in the glass. So we don't need a mixing glass. A lot of places will build the old fashioned, mix, and then pour over into the glass. So in the summer when it's really this hot, I don't wanna add the dilution before I put it over ice. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna build on the ice, and then it's gonna dilute as we drink it. So it'll be good longer. You'll be able to sip it a little bit longer. And also, not everyone has a mixing glass, but you can do it with a mixing glass if you want. You can pretty much mix it in anything you want. You can use a larger glass, and then you can use the top of your mason jar as the strainer if you want. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna, again, use our shot glass, our same shot glass for our cocktails. And it can be any shot glass. It can be the shot glass that you got as a gift at a wedding. It can be anything as long as you're using the same one for all your measurements. So we're gonna use the honey syrup again because honey is obviously a great mixer with whiskey, especially the Glenmorangie with all the ex-bourbon cask notes and all that. It's really nice. So we're gonna do a little 1/2 ounce of the honey, and we're gonna put it right in there. And what we're gonna do now is instead of the Angostura bitters, we're gonna use the Mrs. Better's Bitters green strawberry. So Mrs. Better's Bitters is a Canadian bitters company based in Vancouver. The woman who makes it is such a nice lady. She's wonderful. She's always helped us out with our different foundations. And the bitters she makes are awesome, like excellent. This is one of my favorite ones. but she also makes a pineapple star anise. She makes a Mount Fuji. She makes really, really good ones. And actually she's one of the first people to make the Miraculous Foamer. So it's an algae-based egg white replacement. You only need a couple drops. We're not gonna use that today for the old fashioned, obviously, but we are gonna use the green strawberry bitters. So if you wanna buy some Mrs. Better bitters yourself, it's a little bit of a hard couple of words to stick together there, but you can go to Alambica. It's in Little Italy, and it's a really nice bar shop actually, where you can get nice glassware, you can get bitters, you can get bar equipment if you choose to. You get little stir sticks like this, you know, things like that. Things to, you know, just spruce up your cocktails. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a few drops of that in there. We're gonna put a fair amount. We're gonna put about a third of a squeezy tube like this, because it's delicious. It's super floral. You get that strawberry flavor, but like that unripened strawberry flavor, which is really nice. And it's bitter, but it's not overpoweringly bitter. It doesn't have all those spice notes that Angostura has, so you can put a little bit more without it being overwhelming for the cocktail. So we're gonna do that, and now we're gonna grab our Glenmorangie. Delicious whiskey. And you can always taste test your products while you make your cocktails if you wanna make sure your Glenmorangie's good. Take a little sip of it as well. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put, because my shot glass is little, and the proportions of the sugar that we put in, I'm gonna put 2 3/4 of a shot glass in there, just to make sure that the old fashioned isn't too sweet, because you don't want it to be overly sugary. You want to still be able to taste the whiskey and taste the bitters and kind of have everything complement each other. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a big ice cube in there. So I made those ice cubes in my freezer. You can make big ice cubes if you want, but it's just as good if you use little ice cubes or whatever you have on hand. It's not really, especially if you get those bags of ice from the Dépanneur, there's always like those big chunks. You can use that for old fashioned, because they're not little chunks and big chunks. Pick and choose. We're just gonna give it a little stir until it's a little cool. And then what we're gonna do instead of the orange is we're gonna use lemon zest. So the lemon is gonna go great, obviously, with the strawberry bitters, and obviously with the honey and the whiskey that already has those lemon zest notes, those honey notes, caramel notes from the casks. So we're just gonna grab a little knife, but if you want, you can always use a peeler, like a vegetable peeler. So what you wanna do is you just wanna get the least amount of pith possible. You're just gonna do a little slice like that. A lot of people make, you know, fancy zests, but you don't need to do that. It tastes exactly the same whether it's fancy or not. So we're just gonna take a little bit more of the pith off to make sure that you don't get too much of that bittery lemon flavor, because we already put bitters in. So if you wanna make it cute, you can just like cut the sides off. But I normally don't, because then you're losing this anyways, so it's more for aesthetic reasons. So you wanna expunge the oils above the glass like that, and then just rub zest side around the glass a little bit, and you drop it in, give it another little stir. And what you can do at this point is you can taste your old fashioned and say like, oh, it's a little sweet for me, or I'd like a little bit more bitters, and you can always adjust once it's done. It's not over forever. It's not like once it's mixed, you can't add more whiskey or add a little bit more honey, or, you know, you can always adjust your old fashioned, and then you'll know how you like your old fashioned, and then you can make it like that for everyone, or you can, you know, ask people what they like and experiment with it, experiment with different bitters, experiment with different syrups. Like today we used honey syrup, but you can always use, you know, simple syrup, and you can use cane sugar, you can use whatever you want, you know, you can use agave syrup, and it's fun to like try different things and everything like that. You can also make tequila old fashioned, since we had humidor before, you know, you can also do that with the agave syrup and a little grapefruit zest. It's also really good. So yeah, just, you know, try it, figure it out, do some tests, have some drinks, have some fun, and enjoy. All right, guys, so that's the end of the cocktail workshop for me. So thanks for joining me, and I hope that you guys make all these drinks at home, and I hope that they are delicious, and I hope that all your friends like them, and I hope that it gives you a reason to make drinks at home and experiment, and gives you motivation to like make cocktails at home, you know? You can't only get cocktails at bars, you can also make them yourself.